So once again, thank you very much. I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. This is just the intro. Some of you have seen this intro, but just to make sure everybody's aligned, let's go through the intro again. What are we trying to do at Value Ed? We're trying to inspire our future leaders to make better choices. This program is designed for self-mastery and personal excellence. And as we go through this program, and particularly this session now, you'll begin to see how we've managed to merge this program to a personal excellence and performance self-mastery. We're going to talk later on about how we're going to be merging, entrepreneurs, professionals, intellectuals, etc. That's going to happen predominantly in our master classes, in our mogul classes, and also in our career podcasts. So yeah, you are the future. Let's elevate personal excellence and performance, and let's just help everybody try and get back on track with regards to choices and decisions that they make. As you know, we're doing this over Zoom, but typically we would go into organizations, learnership schools, colleges, and universities where the youth are. The future is going to be a hybrid of both this and Zoom, which will be, I think, the status quo in terms of life going into the future. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to make the future generations, we're trying to make future generations make informed and considered choices about the values that they want to develop as leaders. This is core. And as we go through this, you're going to get my view that leadership does not arrive on your lap. Leadership is something that you personally develop. It is a skill. And like every skill, riding a bike, learning to walk on the trapeze, you've got to practice it. You've got to be aware of it, and you've got to practice it. We're also trying to effect positive change in the leaders of tomorrow, right? So as we embark through difficult times, we're still trying to get people to see things positively and inspire better choices to build tomorrow. So as I said, there are 6 modules, right? Preparation and choice, that's 2, dream the plan, plan the dream, keep on keeping on, etc. And each of these modules have 2 sessions. They're fairly long. We don't want to go through 2 hours. We'll only go through 1 hour and then 1 hour. So you'll see, if you go into the website, the calendar of events, that will give you the kind of sessions and when the dates are for each session. So this is called Preparation 1. There will be a repeat of Preparation 1 next week for those who come on board later in the week. And then there will be Preparation 2 towards the end of the month. Choice 1, Choice 2, etc., all the way through. But that you will get to the hang of as we go through the modular programs. Right, so let's kick off. We have 45 minutes. Let's see what we can do in that time, considering that we had to wait in terms of, has anybody else been able to come on board? Are you able to see? So I know if we are. No, they're still strong. The pani. Oh, okay. Great. So we can kick off. So Preparation 1. This for me is the foundational base of everything. It's actually for me the foundational base of everything in life. And I'll explain that as we go along, and we may share some of our views together as to why that is. There's a great catchphrase that says there's no promise without preparation. And as I go to one of my favorite slides around this, and some of you who've heard me speak know that I start on this subject of you reap what you sow. And every time I look at this, I get new meaning to the construct of what this actually is actually saying. So let's discuss this a little bit, and I'd kind of like to get your views as to exactly what you're thinking and saying. So, when you see you reap what you sow, what do you get a sense of? Who will be the first, or do I have to look at somebody and jump on them? Very good. Well done, Rifiwe. You volunteered. You reap what you sow. What is the thing that you get out when you see you reap what you sow?
Wow. I don't remember volunteering, but okay. I think essentially it's, you know, everything that you do on a daily basis is what you'll get at the end of it, whatever it is, your vision, your goal, your bigger goal, and, you know, everything that you do on a single, every step is, there's a meaning and there's a purpose to it. You don't just do things. And if you do just do things, then they'll come back to you as well. Yeah.
Sizwe, anything to add? And that's true. Well done. Good stuff.
So I agree with everything that Rafael has said. When you put effort into something, there's like a push and a pull. So when you put in effort, you get something back. So the harder you work will give you what rewards equivalent to the amount of effort that you put in. So yeah, I agree with everything she said.
Cool. Pepani, welcome. You've joined. You probably didn't know it was going to be interactive. It is interactive.
Okay. I would agree. Basically, I would compare it to karma, if that makes any sense. Like,
Yeah.
you give what you give and you get what you give. Yeah, everything comes full circle. You reap what you sow. If you're a good person in life, you have a good outcome. If you're a bad person, you have bad outcomes. Basically, everything happens accordingly.
No, cool. So typically, and exactly what you said, most people pick up on that. So I want to break this down a little bit more, because the karma, what you put in, the hard work is the kind of construct that everybody has around you reap what you sow. But there's two other elements I'd like you to think about. And I haven't asked Hillman specifically because he's heard me talk about this, and he's going to jump in and steal my thunder. But the two that I want you to think about are you. So rather than the construct of what happens and what goes around comes around, I want you to look at the two words of you. You reap what you sow. You. And you is very important because it absolves the environment from it being an impactful consequence of your situation. We're all going through trials and tribulations and difficulties. And I didn't ask you guys whether or not you believe in this phrase, but I can assume you do, because most of the time when I ask, people say, yes, I do. But when I then start saying, dig deeper into the phrase, it then starts saying something about the outcomes of your life, which means where you are today is as a result of what you have sown, not what your father sowed, not what your mother sowed, not what your environment sowed, not what your teacher sowed. It's what you have sown. Now, the fact that you were given something to sow, which may not have been something that you wanted to sow, is a completely different debate. But the fact of the matter is, it is you that has sowed it. So the challenge becomes in all these elements as to when you start seeing them, as to what is it that you're going to start sowing. One of the things I say is that an apple seed and a banana seed and a mustard seed, when sown, come out apple seeds, banana seeds, and you know, the apple seed doesn't look at the banana seed and go, hang on a second, I should have been an apple, right? Or it should have been a banana seed. So when you are consistently comparing yourself to others, what are you doing in this construct of you reap what you sow? Just something to think about. So the other thing that I also pick up is that everything starts from the construct of a seed. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. So your multiplication, your growth, your enhancement, and actually human nature all starts from a seed. Most people are looking at the tree and expecting the tree, but nobody is saying, well, hang on, how did this tree begin? It started with a proverbial seed, and that was what was sown. It wasn't the tree that was sown, it was the seed. So the next question becomes, what seeds are you actually sowing? Not what trees. I know it's fantastic to go and look at the outcome of something, but what are the actual seeds that you're sowing to kind of get the results that you're looking for? Okay, let me go back to sharing my screen. So I go back to this construct that you are a seed. you know, you are the key step in getting the outcome that you're looking for. Now, those who know the answer, don't answer, because I know one of you know the answer. Can anybody tell me what they see on the left-hand side? Actually, let me put it this way. Can anybody tell, is there anyone there who doesn't know what they are seeing on the left-hand side? Because if you don't know, it means you know. And if you do know, then I can pick you out and say, what is it? Okay, Hillman, what is it?
Yeah, I think I'll take a wild guess there. It looks like a sperm. Isn't that sperm fertilizing an egg, if I'm not mistaken?
Excellent. It is a sperm fertilizing an egg. It is theoretically, and I hope it is, based on the people who are putting my slides together, a human sperm fertilizing a human egg. And this, for me, is a vital start to this constructional conversation around preparation, because this is how we begin. Every single one of us that are on this planet, we begin as a seed. You are a seed, right? And as a seed, mustard seed, apple seed, banana seed, you need to know what seed you are. Not what your friends are, not what the people who are around you are doing, and not what the last guy you watched on a reality show is doing. You need to understand what you are. And this is vital for preparation. And you'll begin to understand why that is. The beginning of preparation is to understand what seed you are. And that construct talks to knowing thyself. You see, when you're brought into this world, when you go through this 9-month gestation process, it is you and you alone. And you're brought into this world very, very specifically with a very, very specific result and outcome. I believe that you're created to create. That's what I always talk about. You're created to create, not to be created on. But the challenge is to understand what is this thing that I should be creating. But before you can even get to the challenge of understanding what it is that you should be creating, the first thing that you should really digest, and I don't mean this cognitively, I mean this through your behavior, through your DNA, through every, part of your being, that you are unique. There is just no way you can start comparing yourself to other people. There may be similarities, but in terms of identity, you are absolutely unique. There are 7 billion people, over 7 billion people in the world. None of them are created with the same DNA. None of them are created with the same fingerprint. And that's always been an interest to me. It's always been an interest because I've always asked myself, but why is that? Why, if I've got brothers and sisters and we're twins and whatever the case may be, is it that specifically I am created differently? And once you can get to that realization, then your journey of finding out what you're supposed to be preparing for in life becomes a lot easier. Usually we spend our lives trying to compare. Usually we spend our lives trying to emulate. Usually we spend our lives trying to copy. And that gives us this haphazard left, right, all over the place kind of life where we're not actually secure in the direction that we're going. So you are unique. What is your uniqueness? What are you good at? What do you love? What excites you? What would you like to see different in the world? And what do people say you're good at? Those are the beginnings of the constructs after you've accepted that you're unique and that you're not trying to follow, and I know we've got parents here, and I know we've got, it's a conversation I have, that your parents can give you advice, suggestions, ideas, but ultimately the journey that you walk in terms of who you are is yours. And ultimately, you know within yourself, personally, what you're good at and what you're destined to do. Right, so the starting point is to start spending time with yourself. Now, many of the world's issues right now link on a distraction, not spending enough quality time with yourself. And when I talk about spending quality time with yourself, I'll talk about a little bit more in detail in part 2. But it means putting time aside away from the distractions, to have real conversations with that sperm and ovary that started, that created you, to say, why am I here? If you're not doing that, you're not going to find it. It's not going to land on you by fluke. So who are you? You know? And one of the reasons why you need to spend time with yourself is because you have one of the most powerful computing systems that can actually tell you who you are, what you're good at, what you're unique at. But the fact is, you never spend time to actually, you know, converse with that computing system. Can anyone guess what that computing system is? Come on, you have
Would that be
it.
your brain?
Ah, your brain. How many of you actually have a conversation with your brain? It's
Have
important.
multiple conversations.
Have multiple, exactly.
All
And
the
if you
time.
are having multiple conversations with your brain, then you are then able to, take that stride in beginning to truly appreciate who you are and your uniqueness. And we'll talk about how you actually do that over time. But in the meantime, I hope you're going to hear this. If you can't hear it, then you'll probably just read the words.
The most amazing facts about the human brain. The human brain is surprisingly the fattest organ in the body, comprised of approximately 60% fat and weighing in at about 3 pounds. Neurons. The brain contains approximately 100 billion neurons that can send information at speeds of up to 270 miles per hour, quicker than the Hennessy's NMGT, the world's fastest streetcar. Pain. The human brain itself doesn't have pain receptors and therefore cannot feel any pain, making it
So did you all manage to get that?
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to ask a question of everybody. What jumped out at you in that? What are the key? Is there anything in that around the brain that you didn't know and you went, wow, it jumped out at me? What is there that jumped out at you? Please jump in, any one of you.
For me, it was the fact that the brain couldn't comprehend or decipher between reality and the imagination. I found that very interesting.
Yeah, and Caesar, we're going to talk about that. That's my big one. That's my biggie. Anything else? Lerato. I was going to type it. Lerato sitting not too far away. Anyway, Rufua?
Well, for me, the video actually was just because I teach this with my learners, especially neuroplasticity. So it was just reigniting that whole what I knew already about the brain, especially, visualization. I think it's such a powerful thing. I talk about doing vision boards, and 6 months down the line, you can already see things that are jumping out at you from your vision board into reality. So yeah, it was just, yeah.
Yeah. Pepani?
I think mostly the part of DMT, because I'm not sure if anybody else knows that DMT is a powerful.
Sorry,
drug.
Pepani, just speak up a little bit for us. We can barely hear you, my man.
I said the part about DMT, because obviously DMT is a drug and produced in the brain. I don't know, just seemed pretty interesting.
Yeah.
That your brain produces something that's powerful.
Yeah. Where the video mentioned the third eye, subconscious mind. Yeah. Hillman, anything?
I was in agreement with Rufilwe.
Okay, cool. I don't know if Galaxy or Mongi, I don't know if they're on. I see they're on, but I don't know if they can hear. So I mean, the fact that, you know, 10 billion neurons send messages at 270 kilometers per hour, that we've got 70,000 thoughts a day, right? So if you're not harnessing anything, trust me, 70,000 thoughts are going to tell you that you've got 70,000 seeds and you're not going to know what you are. The brain structure can change, exactly what you said, neuroplasticity, and body reacting to something before it happens, that the subconscious knows what's going to happen. But the big one for me is the fact that the brain doesn't tell the difference between reality and what's, I mean, I tease my wife all the time by talking about spiders and snakes. And the more I talk about it, even though there's no spider or snake, the reactions are always the same. So that just goes to show that the brain responds, tells the body to respond in a particular way, that irrespective of the fact that it's real or not, that reaction stays the same. So I'm going to just go back to sharing a few slides. Let's not do that one again. Okay, I think I'm going to have to escape this. Sorry, give me a sec. Got a technical glitch here now with videos. Okay, look, whilst it's thinking and trying to move on to the next slide, that's the only difficulty. Let's do this. Sorry, give me 1 second, folks. This is normally what happens when you play a video over Zoom. It creates this kind of problem. 1 second, and oh, okay. Share again.
The most amazing facts about the human brain.
Okay, whilst it's time figuring out how to get out of this, let me just carry on. Oh, there we go. That's what we wanted to do. There we go. That's better. Right, got it. So now the question becomes, how do you sow? How do you go and begin to understand what we've talked about, spending time with yourself, distracting yourself from the rest of the world in order to really engage with yourself, using that highly expensive piece of equipment called your brain to engage, and really truly appreciating what your brain is capable of when it comes to actually enabling you to truly understand who you are. So, you know, the big element of this that people don't quite understand and appreciate is that the number one ingredient for doing that, for preparation and getting ready to understand what direction you're going, is you need to set time aside. Now, I go on about this a lot. And time aside means literally diarizing structurally that you're either going to be doing it in the morning, you're either going to be doing it in the evening, or whatever it is that you're going to find time. You need to set time aside in order to find out what it is that you're thinking about, in order to find out what it is that you are saying, and more importantly, in order to find out what it is that you're doing. Those three elements define your direction, from what you think to what you say to what you do. And I think a lot of that, you know, people talk about and they understand. So one of the things that people do is that they use preparation and planning interchangeably. Preparation is fundamentally very different to planning. The two cannot necessarily be used together. So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. If I was to ask you, summer's coming along, what are the kind of things that you would want to prepare for in terms of summer, the answer would probably be something along the lines of, well, we want to get that summer body, we want to make sure we've got those summer clothes, and therefore we want to make sure that we look the part. Now, that is an element of setting a plan or a vision, as I would call it. But in terms of truly appreciating the difference between preparation and planning, the act of going to the gym, the act of buying the dietary requirements, the act of putting together the necessary recipes, that is the act of preparation. If I was then going to say to you, when actually are you going to go to the gym? You would probably then say, I'm going to go to the gym at 5:30 in the morning, if you're one of the morning people, or you'd say I'm going to the gym in the evening, or you'd say I'm going to the gym twice a day. From a dietary point of view, you would say I'm going to eat at 8 o'clock my breakfast, my lunch. That act is the act of planning. So the preparation is the actions that you're actually going to be doing. I'm going to be going to the gym, I'm going to be doing this, and this is how I'm working out, and this is how I'm training, and I'm going to be running at 5 o'clock in the morning. The act of planning is when you set time aside for that very thing that you're going to prepare for. Does that make sense to everybody? You can all scream yes. I can't see you. So if you can put your mics on and tell me that you agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So it's imperative that you don't mix up the two. What tends to happen is people do a lot of planning, but no preparation. So what are you planning for? And people do a lot of preparation without the plan. And that's why we talk about planning later in the program, because the first act is, let's just get to understand what you want to happen in summer. Let's have that conversation, and let's understand how you're going to do it. Once we understand what's going to happen in summer and how you're going to do it, then let's talk about when you're going to do it. And when you miss the step of when are you going to do it, that's when the whole thing starts falling apart. So let me. I'll give you another. I'll give you another analogy. So Mike Tyson, you know, used to run at 3 a.m. in the morning when he was a top boxer. I'm sure all of you have heard of Mike Tyson. So and that was his way of preparing for a fight, was to be getting very fit, and he would prepare by running, and he would plan it to run at 3 a.m. in the morning. And when asked, why is it that you're running at 3 a.m. in the morning? His answer was, if I prepare 1 hour earlier than the next guy I'm going to fight who's going to run at 4 in the morning, it gives me a sense of greater superiority against my adversary. Just that act of preparing at a specific time gives him, or meant that it gave him the edge over and above others. So when you prepare, and planning is very, very important. They go hand in hand. So you've heard the expression that that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Well, that's exactly, you know, that's exactly that element. Now, if you do that repetitively, preparation then can become a habit. Ongoing preparation for this coming summer, then you carry on training and you carry on working out, you're then preparing for the next summer. Then all of a sudden it's not a conversation about, you know, I'm preparing for my summers, because you're actually in that mode of making sure that you're eating healthy and making sure that you're actually going to the gym. And that's the point that we want to get everybody at, where the act of preparation becomes a habitual act consistently. And it's not just that once off and once on kind of situation. I'll give you another classical example. So Mike Tyson would run all the time now. And when asked, why are you running? He would say, well, I'm preparing for my fight. And they'd say to him, but you don't have a fight set up yet. He says, yeah, but it's coming. It's coming. And this is what I need to be doing to prepare for that fight. If you look during COVID, what the athletes have been doing, well, I was going to say none, but any true professional athlete did not stop just because there was no activity taking place within sport. They carried on training because they knew that that part of their preparation was essential to their execution. So it begs the question, what is it that you're doing consistently all the time that drives this behavior of you preparing for something? Let's start right at the beginning. We need to figure out what we are preparing for. And then when you know what you are preparing for, you need to be in that act all the time. And I'm going to give you a big, probably aha example of what it is that you have been doing without consciously realizing that you were in an environment of preparation. I'm going to move a little bit quicker so that we don't finish too late. So one of the things that I actually discovered is that preparation is actually a sign of belief. If you look at people who are training right now, if we use a sporting analogy, and preparing for something that's not there or hasn't come, it's a sign of belief that they are consistently trying to do what needs to be done to get to the end point, even when that point hasn't presented itself as a need to have at that moment. What we tend to do in life is we sometimes just wait for what it is that we want to do, then we start preparing for it. But the question is, if you can't see it and it's not there, are you able to still prepare for that very thing that you are destined for in this life? Preparation is the act of getting something ready that is to come and that is not there yet. And believing in that thing is to come with levels of anticipation and excitement, which was interesting because faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So the act of preparation is actually the act of faith. It's the act of believing and believing in yourself and putting an act together with that believing is massively important in terms of success. If you look at everybody who's been successful, the number one key ingredient for their success is belief in themselves. If you understand what that belief in themselves was, is that they jumped into something and just carried on preparing without necessarily assuming, expecting, or depending on the end outcome. They just knew that if I do this, it's the right thing to do for the outcome that is expected. So the act of preparation is also powerfully the act of looking forward. If you're not preparing, you're not looking forward. If you're stagnant, it's going to be very difficult for you to consider preparing. The act of looking forward is probably one of the most powerful acts of thanksgiving. Everybody always says you need to be thankful for what you have. Yes, the present in terms of what you have is great. But can you imagine how powerful it is to look forward to something that you can't see, that hasn't manifested yet, but yet you're preparing for? That is one of the most powerful acts of thanksgiving. So if you want to know what can I do to be thankful, prepare. Prepare. Look forward. Look to what it is that might yet to come but has not manifested yet. So what happens with levels of anxiety? Levels of anxiety are usually measured because we look backwards. So if you were to think about your life now, the fact that you have achieved what you've achieved now, you've set yourself an objective for something that you need to prepare for. If you measure not what it is that you've achieved up to this point, but only what it is that you're trying to achieve, you're going to create anxiety for yourself. You know, one of the things I was thinking about this Zoom meeting was that I've started this process of value add. If I measured myself against saying that there should be 1,000 people on Zoom, right? My anxiety levels would have been whether or not there are 1,000 people at Zoom. TD Jakes once said, I preached to 5 people, of which 3 of them were members of my own family. But I preached like it was, I had 30,000 people in that room. And that's vital, because if you look forward, it takes away the anxiety of looking backwards. Backwards is the act of saying, I have not succeeded, but then again, this is how far you've come. An example I always use is that if you were to walk to Sandton and it was 25 kilometers, and after 10 kilometers, or after even, let's say, 15 kilometers, with 10 kilometers to go, you start being concerned about the time that you're going to take to get there. But you forget that you've already walked 15 kilometers. Your focus becomes the 10 kilometers that you still need to walk. And you miss the focus of the fact that you've actually walked 15 kilometers already. So your thanksgiving is what I've received, but also your thanksgiving is what I'm going for. And that is the act of preparation. This is why I'm so passionate about this, because this is where we get it wrong. We just assume everything from a seed is going to become a tree tomorrow, but it does not become a tree tomorrow. It's a process. The one I want to leave you with, or as we draw to an end, the one I want to leave you with is a crucial point, and particularly for you guys who recently were in tertiary or are in tertiary or are going to go to tertiary. The critical point here is, if you think of the structure of school, school has created a preparatory structure for individuals. There's a combination of something that you're preparing for, which is your final year. When you enter grade 1, that school has got one only outcome, that when you get to matric, you pass. Yeah, they'll measure their mileages along the way with regards to grade 1, grade 2. But when I take my daughter to school, I don't ask the question, did they pass grade 2? I ask the question, what is the matric pass rate? So their objective is to have people pass at matric, right? And they create a structured environment of preparing you for that. You get up at a certain time in the morning, you start school at a certain time in the morning, you go through certain classes, the periods, a certain lengths of time, you've got routine studying, routine tests, routine assignments, routine exams. It's all structured very specifically to get you to an end state, which is matric. Same thing happens in tertiary to some level. You're relaxed a little bit, but there is a structure. Universities need to pass their graduates at the end of the day. What happens when you finish tertiary or when you finish school is that you have no structure anymore. So you have no preparatory structure for the next thing that you're doing. And my sense is that your preparatory structure needs to be as rigid as the preparatory structure that you went through to get you through school and tertiary. If you don't have that preparatory structure to get you to where you're going to, then you're going to falter along the way. And that's when the foundation just does not work with regards to preparation. So going quickly through, if you look at the picture on the right, everybody is aspiring to that. Preparation is the picture on the left. It is never a pretty picture, but it is the key step to get the outcome you desire. What is it that you're doing on a consistent basis that looks like on the left to get you the outcome that you're looking for on the right? That is the preparation process. Everybody wants the beautiful home, but what is the foundational process you're putting into play? What are the structures? What are the bricks? What are the processes? And we talk about this later on when we talk about dream the plan, then plan the dream. We give you practical steps as to how to do this. But I want you to understand that any outcome that you're looking for requires a preparatory process at first. So people can promise you what they like, but at the end of it, everything that you go through, even the simple act of cooking, it's wonderful to get the meal at the end, but my wife needs to go shopping. After shopping, she needs to bring the food home. She needs to chop it. She needs to put it together. She needs to, etc., etc. That is the preparatory process. It's never the pretty one. The eating is great. The question I ask again, what have you put in place for the preparatory process of your life to sow the seeds now for the outcome that you're looking for in the future? And the preparatory process needs to be precise and meticulous. If you are a banana seed, if your uniqueness is to be an apple, then you need to do the process for apples, which are fundamentally different to the process for bananas, and fundamentally different to the process for mustard seeds. So don't look to your left, see somebody doing something and believe that they're doing the right thing when it doesn't actually conform to what you are doing. I'm 52 years old. Should I have started my business at 28? No, I should have started my business at 52. So I can't compare myself to the Zuckerbergs of the world or the whoever of the world. This is my journey. What is your journey? Coming up to the last slide. If you really want to understand the preparatory process versus the outcome, you have to understand that how much time you put in is not going to be equal to how much time you get out, right? So if I get nice 20 years of value adding, that puts me at 72. I put in 50 years to get to 72. That's just the nature of the game. But let's take it from a world-class athlete's point of view. A world-class athlete, if you remember the days of Mr. Usain Bolt, right? Usain Bolt could train 6 to 8 hours a day, 5 to 7 days per week. How long was the output that he got from that preparatory process? It was less than 10 seconds. So the quantum you put in is not going to be equal to the quantum. You can use all sorts of examples. If you're going to save for a holiday, you want to go, definitely not to America now, but somewhere in the future, you want to go on vacation, you're probably going to save for a year or two, but your holiday is only going to last 2 weeks. I say this to young matric students that you study the whole grade 12 to write an exam that lasts 3 hours long, right? So the amount of time you put in is not going to be equal to the amount of time you get out. And if you get that in your mind, as powerfully as the other stuff, you'll be on the right track, because what it'll mean is that you're not a quick fix, overnight, 3-minute noodle, hope it happens tomorrow person, and you will do it properly, because the act of doing it properly is what creates the sustainability. So to end off, how will you prepare? How much time are you going to set aside? This is the critical thing that you're going to have to start thinking about. I want you to start, if you haven't got to that point, or even if you have, and you've got some level of expertise in it, I want you to consistently refine it. Be like Tyson. If you've got out jogging and you think jogging is great, jog at 3 a.m., it'll just up your game. Make sure that there's a strong correlation with your preparatory process and your sense of belief, because it's the preparation that's going to give you the sense of belief. And look forward. Looking forward is going to give you the momentum, the direction, and even the magnitude that you have versus looking back. You have moved considerable distances. If I was to say to some of you, go and grab a grade, and I had this chat earlier on, go and grab a grade 7 or grade 8 student, a grade 7 student going into high school in grade 8. What would you say to them now, knowing what you know now? If you would say to them, you're gonna make it, just put in the effort, put in the time, everybody can go through this, everybody can succeed, everybody can pass, everybody can move forward. If that's the case for grade 7 to grade 8 going to matric, that's the case for life in general. The moment that seed hit the ovary, hit the sperm, none of us were involved in the creation, not to any point, none of us. But what it created was a brain, a heart, lungs, ability to see, the ability to eat, a spine, bones, muscle. It's an amazing creation that just comes purely from the idea that a sperm meets an ovary, but is destined, predestined to have an outcome to that sense. I don't believe that's anything less now that we walk the planet. It's just that we need to put the right time aside to find the right kind of level of seed that we are, so we can start preparing ourselves for the outcome of that fruit that's going to be born once we truly know what seed we are.